Hi everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to make a very simple Christmas door wreath. My name is Janette and I'm from Case Flower School. So you know, around Christmas time we all buy the Christmas tree and we go into the shop and we naturally pick out the largest Christmas tree, and then you bring it home and you have to get the other half to hack a few branches off it. Well, to make your Christmas door wreath, this is what you need: a few branches from your Christmas tree. Or a little tip for you, you know the shops that sell Christmas trees, they often have lots of spare branches because, again, some other people go and they also do the same thing. They pick the largest Christmas tree, they go to try and fit it in the car, and then they ask the shop to cut off a few of the branches. So they're left with these branches, and that's what they'd be delighted to get rid of them, and that's what you need. Now also you need a few materials, right? So you'll need a roll of what we call real wire or mossing wire. So this is for attaching a lot of the material onto our frame. The next thing you need is a wire ring. Now these come in different sizes. I recommend about a 12-inch one. That'll make a good, decent size wreath. You can buy a smaller ring, but listen, we might as well go all out because we're getting this for free. So you need a 12-inch wire ring. You need a couple of florist wires. That's if you decide to add some decoration. Now you might just like it dead plain, and if that's the case, you won't need these wires. But if you want to add maybe some couple of pine cones, maybe the kids have collected pine cones, or again, your local shop might sell a small bag of pine cones, or even a couple of decorations. I'll start off and I'll keep it dead simple, and then I'll show you how I can add decoration. And then if you need to add a bow, or if you choose to add a bow. So I just have some organza here, kind of a green organza, fairly neutral, and the thing is, the rest of this roll of ribbon will do me all year round. But obviously you can choose to use maybe a tartan ribbon, a velvet ribbon, a hessian ribbon, or again, a colour that suits you. Now you're probably thinking, where will I get all this material? Well listen, we have you sorted. We actually have a kit on our website, which is flowerschoolisland.com. I'll put the link along the bottom there. If you go to the website and click on the sundries for sale button, you will be able to buy 3 rings. So you need to go back and get loads more branches, okay? So you'll get 3 of these rings, you'll get a bunch of the wires, you will get a roll of the real wire or the mossing wire, and you'll get a full roll of the organza ribbon, which has 25 meters on it. So you will have enough, actually more than enough, to do 3 of the wreaths. All you have to source yourself is the foliage and then any decorations that you decide to add. So you'll also need strong scissors, by the way. So are you ready to start? So for the moment, the only thing you will need is the roll of real wire and one of the frames. So you get your branch of greenery and you have to cut it up. So we're looking for these triangle pieces, and we're looking to try and keep the pieces approximately the same size. Now it's up to you. Will we say 20 centimetres or 25 centimetres? If you want to go a little bit larger or a little bit smaller, depending on how big you'd like your door wreath to be. So I'm going to roughly cut mine about that length there, and I'm calling that 25 centimetres. Now some people might be looking at that and say, do you know what, cut it a bit longer, or that looks more like 28 centimetres, or that looks more like 20 centimetres. It doesn't really matter, once they're all going to be a similar size. Now I don't believe in measuring anything, right? So that's my first one, and I'm going to lie that down there on the table, and now I'm going to cut the next piece, and I'm going to guess that that's the same length. Now this one is a much smaller, skimpier piece. It's not as full looking, but still I'm going to cut it up. And then I'm going to turn the branch around and I'm going to say that's about 25 centimetres, that's about 25 centimetres. Now there's a couple of little small ones, so rather than wasting them, because remember we got this for free, I'm just going to cut them off. Do you see them little small ones there? Okay, so they're not going to go to waste. And then we have these kind of big long sausage kind of fingery looking ones. They can look a little bit rude. So I'm going to cut them about 25 centimetres, and again I have a couple of these small little finger ones. I'm going to cut them off as well, and that's one of my branches. Now it's the bigger pieces that's important, okay? So I'm keeping them to one side, and all them little small skimpy ones, keep them to the other side. Now I'm taking up the next branch, and again I'm getting a nice 25 centimetres, 25 centimetres. Now there's a nice chunky one. I'll be able to cut that one up there as well. And again I have a couple of little skimpy ones. So I'm going to cut off all these little skinny ones here. Absolutely nothing goes to waste. You can see there I'm cutting up everything, and listen, if you have an open fire you could burn that. So now I'm taking up the next branch, And again, this one is a much bigger one, okay? So obviously the person who bought this Christmas tree didn't want this branch, thank God. So there's again about 25 centimetres, thereabouts. Do you get the idea? So cut. You need a good strong scissors or secateurs for doing this, right? So there's loads of pieces on this one, and again we have a couple of skimpy ones. I'm getting some of my pieces mixed up, but you listen, I'll sort them all out in a few minutes, cut them all up, nothing goes to waste, and I'm left with the branch there. So continue doing that to all the branches of Christmas tree that you have. So out of the 4 branches of spruce that I had, or knobless, I keep calling it Christmas tree, but just so that you know what it is, I got about 23 larger pieces, and then I got lots of these smaller ones. Now, if you got more or you got less, I'll be able to show you how you can adjust it. So the next stage now is attaching the real wire onto the wire ring. The easiest way to do that is just hook it through, any length at all, and just give it a couple of twists with your finger. There's no tying any knots or anything. Just twist it around on your finger there a couple of times, and there it is attached onto it. Now, if say you were quite short and you only got a couple of these pieces of foliage, maybe you only got 1 or 2 branches, the best way to get the best mileage out of your door wreath, okay, is to place the foliage directly onto the wire ring. As in, I am going to show you how to attach it, but as in a piece like that, and then another piece like that, and then another piece like that. Can you see like this sort of effect all the way around? And you'll see that you'll get away with about 12 pieces if you do it that way. But if you were lucky enough, I got 4 branches and I was able to get about 23 pieces. And to make my door wreath a little bit larger, depending on your home, okay, if you place the pieces on an angle, you see like that they're coming out from the frame. So you can see here at the back how many centimetres I'm gaining. It makes the door wreath that little bit larger, but it is going to take a larger number of pieces. So again, all the pieces will be placed on an angle. I am going to show you how to attach them, but can you see that sort of effect? And if you were lucky enough like me that you got lots of these little small pieces, I may not have 23 of these small pieces, okay? But ever so often what I'll do is I'll give each of the larger pieces a little baby sister or a little baby brother. So I'll just place a small one, can you see like that, just on top of the large one. So again, when I place it onto the frame, it'll help to make it a little bit chunkier. Now if you want to, if you have any other foliages in your own garden, or maybe you're able to get some holly, or do you know what's brilliant for adding in now? A little bit of the wild ivy or the silver Sussex. If you have any of them sort of foliages, you can do the same thing. So make the ivy the little brother or sister, or make the holly the little brother or sister, and again that will make it chunky. And if you can get lots of varieties of foliage, well, listen, they can have loads of little brothers and sisters, you know, that way. And the more different textures you have, the more interesting and the more expensive looking the door wreath will look. Now, some of you are probably asking there, is she not going to moss the frame? There is a way of making a door wreath and mossing up the frame first. And the idea is using fresh moss, it holds in the moisture. Or what other people do is they actually use straw. Now again, straw's not going to hold in the moisture, but it gives it like a body, or it gives it like a base to hold on to. And other times people use Q-press or Leyland branches. Now if you follow us on our YouTube channel, I have lots of free tutorials out there. All you have to do is search Case Flower School, and I'll show you how you can moss a frame, how you can moss a frame as such using straw, and how you can moss or make a frame using the Q-press or the Leyland branches. But the thing is, at Christmas time, spruce lasts for ages. It doesn't need a moss base. And even if you had a moss base and it was full of moisture, the moss base is going to dry out, dehydrate, hanging on your door. So the thing is, to save time, to save effort, but also to keep it a lot lighter, that it's not going to mark your door, you're probably as well to just use the wire frame. So that's what we're going to do today. So you pick up one of your larger pieces, and you'll pick up one of the smaller pieces. So I'm taking up like a little baby one there, right? And I'm placing the small one on top of the large one. And as I said, we're going to make a larger door wreath this time. So I'm going to place it on the angle that I showed you, resting onto the wire frame. Now you remember I caught the real wire onto the wire frame. So now what I'm going to do is with the real wire, I'm going to wrap it around the ends, the 2 branches, you know, the ends of the 2 branches where the small one is resting on top of the larger one. And you wrap that around about 3 or 4 times just to make sure that it's nice and secure and that it's caught onto the base, okay? So then what we're going to do, so we'll just slide that one there slightly on an angle. I'm going to take up another length of foliage, and I'm going to place a small one on top of it. Again, I'm going to rest that on an angle onto the base, and it's going to slightly overlap the previous one. And again, using the reel wire, I'm going to wrap that around about 3 or 4 times. You're as well to be sure, as we just say here in Ireland. So go around there at least 4 times just to make sure it's really cut on, and that's how the foliage is being cut onto the base. It's really easy and really simple. And again, we catch a larger one. This was a quite chunky one, so maybe I'll just pick up one of the little baby sisters. We'll rest it on there, and again, slightly overlapping onto the base on an angle. And again, the reel wire is going to wrap around. Now, if you're unsure, what you could do is you could measure all the pieces of greenery onto the wire base to try and judge how far you can place them out on the base, or how close together you can put them. But with a little bit of experience, you'll be able to judge after a while. But most of you are probably doing this for the very first time. So it's probably a good idea to just rest them on the base at the very beginning, just to see how it goes. So basically what we're going to do now is I'm going to work around the ring, adding all these branches on, as I go around, wrapping the reel wire around, as I said, at least 4 times, just to make sure that it's cut on. Now you will find your hands are going to get really sticky. If you have a little bit of oil, like baby oil or even WD-40 oil, cooking oil would do the same job, and that's the best way to get the stickiness off your hand. So then I'm going to continue around, and again, just to let you see what it looks like, to see how it's all coming together, and that's what it looks like at the back. And you can see the couple of inches or the couple of centimetres extra I'm gaining by allowing the branches to rest on an angle off the frame, about 45-degree angle, and again, it's going to make the door wreath look a lot larger. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, what do we do the rest of the year round when it's not Christmas? So here at Case Flower School, what we are a commercial school, and we actually train florists. So we train florists for working in a flower shop, working from home on a commercial basis, and long term, a lot of our florists then go on to open up their own business eventually. But we have different types of courses that are suitable for the complete beginner. Most students who come to us are complete beginners. We also have intermediate and advanced courses for maybe florists that need to update and maybe learn new skills. Maybe they trained in wedding floristry years ago and they never learned how to do the guppy bouquet or the freeform bouquet or floral arches or topiary trees or moon gates or working with the chicken wire or flower pillars. Well, we cover absolutely everything here at the school. So we have 4 modules. So module 1 mostly covers flower arranging. Module 2 would be hand-tied bouquets and funeral floristry, and a little bit of flower arranging as well. Module 3 would be all wedding floristry, so your wedding bouquets, buttonholes, corsages, you name it, we cover it. And module 4 would all be hotel and event decoration. So like the large topiary trees, the moon gates, the arches, candelabras, unity candles, table garlands, suspended garlands, the floral cloud. We cover all of that on module 4. Now, when we talk about online, people often say, oh God, will you learn anything online? Our online courses are completely unique. Unique in that we make them as close to a classroom, bit of twine there, as close to a classroom-based course as we possibly can. Now, how do we do that? First of all our students are made a member of the Bloom Room. Now, the Bloom Room, think of that as being a virtual interactive classroom. So basically, it's a private group on Facebook, and all the students will be sent like a special invitation to make them a member of it. And every morning, around 9, 10 a.m. every morning, your tutor will be available. Kind of think of it as being at your beck and call, but she's on for the live chats. So the live chats is where we can discuss tutorials that you have watched the previous day. Any questions that you have, any queries, anything that you want to go back over again. And like even things like about suppliers and cost prices and wholesale prices and setting up accounts with wholesalers. Even like when it comes to setting up your own business, like getting an accountant, registering as a business, registering with revenue, registering your name, registering your VAT number. We cover all of that as part of our professional module programs. Now, I'm getting near the end, I'm not at the end, but just to let you see what it looks like so far. Now, as you can see, you can do it faster. If you stop talking and you keep going, you'll do it faster. But listen, you'll enjoy doing it. And if you want to add in, like you can see how far I'm going with the 23 branches that I had there. So if you want to add in the other varieties of foliage, remember I saying the little baby sister, the little baby brother, again, that will just make it a little bit more interesting. But the great thing about the spruce, this will last easy 4 weeks, okay? Now you can get up to 6 weeks. So people will come back to me and say, oh God, mine lasted 6 weeks. And you'll get people coming back to you and saying, mine actually still looked okay 12 months later. Because it all depends on what you're expecting and obviously how cold it is. So presuming you're hanging it on your front hall door, whether it's in a porch or it's outside, it's going to be really, really cold. And even in December, if we get mild weather, it's still pretty cold it is. So if you want it, you can keep it misted or sprayed. But to be honest, I never mist mine and I never sprayed. And mine is in a porch, you know, that way. So it's not like I can say it's getting the rain. But my porch would be absolutely bitter cold, you know, that way. And I find like I would be inclined to always have my door wreath on last week in November. Like I'd be one of these is get it on the door early because it's a great advertisement for you, and especially if maybe you want to do these and sell them, you know, that way, even as a business, or even it would make an absolutely gorgeous present to give to somebody. Now I'm just coming up to the last section and I need to show you this. So this is the last section. Do you see where I need to get a piece in there, right? So what you need to do is with your branches of greenery is you need to try and tuck them in underneath. That was the beginning branch, okay? So you need to try and tuck it in. So we get our length of greenery and I'm just going to put this small one on top of it there just to make it a little bit chunky. So these ends, I'm going to slide them in underneath the beginning of where that one is overlapping, okay? So I lift up that first branch. We'll stick this in there, you know the way, just to hide it. So it nearly looks now like an eternal circle. But this is where you have to be a little bit careful, because if you get your real wire and you just wrap it over, you're going to flatten down everything that you have, you know, that's nice and fluffy and nice and bouncy. So I call it the wiggle and the wangle, okay? And all the students slag me over this. So I kind of like wiggle and wangle the wire in and out through the greenery and then wrap it around, pull it nice and tight. And I'll do the same thing again. I'll wiggle and I'll wangle, so I'm not flattening anything, okay? So I'm still leaving the greenery nice and fluffy, and I'm going to pull that nice and tight. And you know me, to be sure, so I'm going to wiggle and wangle, so wiggle in and out again, lift up the branches if you have to, wrap it around, and we'll pull that nice and tight. And just to be on the safe side, we'll do it once more. And sometimes I end up going through a different branch, which I'm actually doing now. So I'm wiggling and wangling in through a different branch, coming around, and I'm pulling it nice and tight. So you can see that's what it looks like at the back. What you can then do is you can cut off the wire, okay? Hold it with your fingers so you can see where it is. My fingers are mad sticky now. So I'm just going to hook it in through the little gold wire, which is the wire off the frame. Do you know the metal frame that I showed you? So I'm just going to hook it in through there. I'm just going to bend it around and just tuck it in. And there is our 12-inch, which isn't 12 inches. The wire frame was 12 inches, as you can see there from the back. And there is our door wreath greened up. And that's what I have left out of the 4 branches of the Christmas tree. But listen, if I had placed it on directly onto the frame like I showed you, I would have easily got maybe the 3 wire frames made out of it. But I just think it's nice to be chunky and it looks that little bit more luxurious. So now I want to show you how to make a bow to decorate it. So now it's the bow, and I'm going to go for this neutral kind of like mossy green colour, but as I said, you can choose to use any colour bow you wish. This is normally what we send out with our kits. So you can decide to have a really big bow or a small bow. So as a guideline, I normally kind of like measure the ribbon across my chest and the length of one of my arms. So if I hold the roll of ribbon at my shoulder and then measure it out to see across my body, and like here in Ireland I call that a good yard, but you might call it a good metre, or you might say, God, hasn't she got nice long arms there? So it can be any length at all. And if you'd like to make the bow a little bit fancier, you can do what we call a double version. So you can get 2 lengths of it. So we go and we'll do the same thing again, measure it across the length of our body, and you needn't even worry if one is longer than the other, because I'm going to purposely make one of the bows a little bit larger than the other. And again, if you want to, you can mix the colours of these. So if you did have some other colour fabric ribbon that you choose to use, you can change that instead. Now, to make the bow, we call the bow a collar bow. And a collar bow as if it was a scarf wrapped around your neck for Christmas or for the winter months, okay? So as if this was my scarf wrapped around my neck, and this sort of effect, like to keep myself nice and warm. But can you see where the 2 pieces have crossed across my chest? Well, keep that in mind, because that's how you make the bow. But when you go to make the bow, it's not possible to make it wrapped around your own head. So what you do is you pretend that you're wrapping it around somebody's head and you're crossing it under their chin, across their chest, like I just demonstrated, okay? And this is what decides how big the bow is going to be. So if you'd like to make it a bit larger, just pull that back a little bit and pull that back a little bit. You see, to make the tail shorter, and naturally you're making the neck longer, okay? I'll do the other bow a little bit smaller just to show you. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe this as being the back of the neck. So I'm going to catch it there in the centre, and I'm going to bring it in there to see to the front of the neck, and I'm going to squash that in. Can you see they're nice and tight together? And then using one of the florist wires, do you remember I said we include some of these in the kit, is if you just wrap the wire around the centre of the bow where your finger was holding it, it's important to make sure that one wire is much longer than the other. Squeeze it together and wrap the long wire around the short wire. Now this is a technique that I'm going to show you lots of times if you want to do any of the decorations on it. And then what you can do is you can fluff it up. You know yourself, nothing like a fluffy bow. So I'm able to open out the organza, and some ribbons that you buy have a little wire inside it, and again it'll do the exact same effect. The wire will kind of fluff it up for you, and I can go back afterwards and I can trim them tails to the same length. If you want to do a smaller version of it, same idea, but this time the neck is a little bit smaller. So when I wrap it, I'm making a smaller neck, which might mean a kind of slightly longer tails. But as I said, I'm going to trim the tails afterwards. You grab the back of the neck, you bring it into the front of the neck, and you scrunch it in real tight. Now it might look like this ribbon is narrower, but it's the exact same ribbon as the previous one. It's just it hasn't been fluffed open. Then using one of the florist wires, wrap the florist wire around the centre. Make sure one wire is much longer than the other. Hopefully you can see it there against the screen. Squeeze the two of them together and wrap the long wire around the short wire 2 or 3 times, and then you can go back and you can fluff this one out as well. So again, we fluff out that loop, and again it's completely up to yourself how much you want to fluff them out. The same with the length of the tails, like do you want them longer or shorter? I'm just going to cut straight across. And the same thing with these two tails. I'm just going to bring the two of them together, and I'm now going to trim them the same length. It's the easiest way to do it. And again, we'll throw them pieces into the magic bin. The magic bin, by the way, is just behind me here. So it means when I go to put these bows onto the wreath, I have one a little bit larger than the other. And if I put the small one, a bit like the baby sister, if we put the small one in front of the larger one, do you see the way it looks much nicer than just the plain bow on its own? And again, if you want to substitute and use a different colour, complementing different fabric material, that will look absolutely gorgeous as well. Now you have to decide, do you want your bow at the top of the door wreath or at the bottom of the door wreath? It's gas, it just be 50-50. Anytime I do a poll on Instagram and I say to people, which do you prefer, I nearly always get 50-50. So it's completely up to yourself. So look at your wreath frame and decide where you want to put the bow. So I'm kind of looking at it, and this side here just seems to be a little bit untidier. So I'm actually going to put the bow there to cover the untidy part, right? So bring that section of the frame over the edge of the table. That's the handiest way to do it. You have the wire on the bow. The wire on the bow is going to pierce down through the spruce, through the real wire, and through the metal frame until the wire came out through the other end. And I'm going to hold it up there, and hopefully you can see, just catch it there with my thumb. There's the wire coming out through the opposite side. And all I'm going to do with that wire now at the back is bend it over and make like a U-bend, a horseshoe shape, and push it back up into the frame. And that will secure the bow in place and will hold it there. I decided to put my bow at the bottom of the door wreath. And if you want to do the double bubble, as we call it, you get the smaller bow and you do exactly the same thing. So in the same area, just you won't be able to stick it through the ribbon. So find a little bit of a space, stick it through the spruce, bring it over the edge of the table, it's the handiest. Stick the wire right through, that the bow looks like it's on top of the other bow, like I did earlier. I'm making that little U-bend, or that horseshoe bend, and I'm pushing the surplus wire back up into the frame, or you can always wrap it around a little branch. And again, you'll find your bow is after getting a little bit flat, so we'll do a little bit of fluffing out again. So that's what our door wreath is going to look like with our bow just at the bottom. And if you want it, you can then just make a hanger just to hang it on the door. So again, you can cut another length, and depending on where you're going to hang it on the door, you might need an extra little bit of length. It's completely up to you. But like, there'll be 24 meters on the roll of fabric that I'll send out to you, so you'll have absolutely loads. And at the opposite end to the bow, I'm going to bring this fabric ribbon, can you see the way around it? But rather than coming on literally on top of the spruce, I'm just going to stick it in between the branches and bring it through, just kind of to hide it. It's going to look neater if I do it this way. And can you see the way the two pieces then have come through, and I'll be able to tie a knot, and now I'll have my hanger, to see, for hanging it up on the door. And what I like to do with these two pieces, I'm going to roughly get them the same length. I'm going to tie a knot, so the knot is actually going onto the wire frame. Just a single knot, you needn't even do a double knot, it's not going to go anywhere. And I'm going to leave these two ends open. So it means then, when you go to hang it on your door, some people hang it on their door handle, some people hang it on the door knocker, some people have a special little hook that they bought in the likes of the home stores or walk around shops. And again, you can just tie a knot, you can cut this shorter, you know, that way. That's why leave it long at the beginning, and you can hook it onto the special door hanger. Or another option is you can tie a knot here. So I'm just going to tie a knot. Just make sure it's nice and tight. I'm going to trim off the little raw bits, okay? And what I like to do in my house, okay, because I have a wooden door, on the inside of my door there's a nail there, and this nail has been there for years and years and years, just at the very top of the door. It's even been painted the same colour as the door, so you wouldn't even notice it. So when I hang my door wreath on the door, this ribbon comes over the top of the wooden door, like so, and it hooks onto the nail on the inside of the door, and it means that it can't move and it's nice and secure. Now that wreath is absolutely gorgeous, but wouldn't it be lovely if we add a few decorations? So hopefully, maybe around the house, you have a couple of pine cones. If not, go down to your local florist, they'll probably sell you a small bag of them, but also the likes of Deals, Mr Price, walk around shops, or as I said, bring the kids up the park and they'll be able to collect some pine cones for you. So now I'm going to show you how you can decorate it. I have 10 cones here, and they're all shapes and sizes. The little sister and the big mammy and daddy, they're all different shapes and sizes, and that's fine. If you want to be particular and pick cones all the same size, if you're lucky enough, that would be great. The other thing that you can do is you could paint the cones, or you could spray them, like, you know, with the aerosol sprays, gold or silver or bronze or rose gold seems to be really big this year. But I'm just going to go for au naturel. This year, like, the natural seems to be very popular, and I just think with that kind of natural organza ribbon, let's keep it nice and simple. So to wire up the cone, you'll need a few more of these wires. So I'm going to use 10 cones, so that means I need 10 wires. Now I will send you out plenty of wires in the kit, so you'll be fine. So you'll have these petals on the pine cone, and what you're going to do, as low down, so this is the top, this is the bottom, as low down on the pine cone as possible, you're going to insert the wire in through the little petals, okay? Leave a small little piece of the wire sticking out. The long piece of wire then you're going to wrap around the bottom of the cone, in between the petals, all the way around until it meets that short little bit of wire that you left sticking out, okay? Crisscross them or cross them over each other, and with the tops of your fingers, just give it 1, 2 twists and stop. Now at that stage, there will be that small little bit of wire sticking out. You're only going to hurt your fingers by keep twisting that to hide it. You're not going to see it when it's actually down into the frame. So you go along, I'll do that again just for anyone that's not too sure. I'm actually going to bring it in close because I think it'll be better. Just hang on a second. Okay, close up here of the pine cone. I have it upside down in my hand, so that's really the top and this is the bottom. So insert the wire in between the petals as low down as you can. It's a bit awkward in there, right? So as low down as you possibly can, but leave about 2 centimeters of the wire sticking out. Then with the long piece of wire, you're going to fish that or twist it around the pine cone, in between the petals, all the way around until it finally comes to crisscross or meets. Do you see the short little bit of wire there? So just basically cross them over each other, and then with the tops of your fingers, give it 1, 2 twists and stop. And as I said, that's the little bit of wire that everybody wants to keep twisting until they can hide it. There's absolutely no need. And just make sure that this wire is left long enough, because that's going to go down through the spruce and be hooked up into a horseshoe shape and stuck back up into the frame. But I'm going to show you now. I'll just get the rest of them wired up. Now when you're only starting, you may want to get your pine cones and just rest them on the base like that, you know what I mean, to kind of get an idea where you're going to place them and how big of a space to leave in between them. A mistake a lot of people make is they just work the pine cones around the exact centre of the frame, where I like to work the cones in a zigzag, a cone towards the outside, one towards the middle, one towards the outside, one towards the middle. So again, you could just rest them there, just to kind of give you a general idea where you're going to place them. And sure, listen, if you only get the 9 in, that's grand. If you only get 8 in, that's grand as well. And if you need 11 or 12, you better go off and get 2 more cones. So the best way is bring the frame over the edge of your table again. decide where you want to insert it. So this time I want to go towards the outside of the ring, right? So the wire goes in through the spruce on the outside. So stick the wire through till it comes through the opposite side, and this hand can actually feel the wire coming through the opposite side. So one hand controls the cone and one hand controls the wire underneath. So with the hand that has the cone, I can position this exactly where I want it to be. So you can see the way I'm angling it. In other words, I want you to look up at me like that, smiling. And the wire then, the hand that's underneath, that's holding the wire, I'm going to U-bend, horseshoe shape that, and stick it back up into the frame to secure it in place. And that's where the cone will stay there. I'm now going to leave a little bit of space, and I'm going to work towards the middle of the wreath frame. So same idea, stick the wire through, one hand controls the cone, positions it exactly where I want it to go, and the other wire is bending the wire and sticking it back up into the frame. Now I want to go towards the outside again, and you can see the way I'm twisting the frame on the table all the time. So one hand is securing the cone and the other hand is securing the wire. Now I'm going to work towards the middle again. I'm up near like where the hook is. And so far I've used 4 of the wires, so I'm nearly, 4 of the cones, so I'm nearly at the halfway mark at this stage, just to kind of give you an idea. So now I'm going to work towards the outside again. So again, stick the wire down through it, one hand controls the cone, one hand controls the wire, and stick it back up into the frame. Sometimes you kind of hit a branch like I did that time, and you just pull it back out and you go into another spot. So now I'm going through the inside again, and the same trick, you know, that way you'll get kind of quite fast and quite confident, and you'll even get that you'll twist the wire around a branch or around something else underneath just to secure it in place. Now I'm putting in the, I'm on the 7th one at this stage, so you can see like I'll have plenty left over, but I'm going to use them up. This is my 8th one. And then looking at it, I kind of say to myself, God, you know what, Janette, you probably should have put another one here, and you probably should have put another one here. So that's how I'm going to use up my 10 cones. Now, if you did what I suggested and you rested them on the base before you started, you probably would have them well divided up and well proportioned, and you won't have to go back and do what I'm doing here. So there's my 9th pine cone in it. I'll hold it up to you now in a second, and I'm just sticking another one over here. And you know what, with the 10 pine cones, it looks absolutely gorgeous, and you can put lots more of them if you want to. And there's our door wreath with just pine cones and an organza bow. Now, if you're a little bit like me and you do like the au naturels, what about a few slices of fruit? Now, it is possible to buy the dehydrated slices of fruit, but also you could dry them out yourself. Like people dry them out on their radiators, people dry them out on their ranges, and some people put them in the oven. And I've heard of some toasty ones coming out of the oven. Do you know that way? You could even leave the fruit whole if you want. So I have a couple of lemons, a couple of orange slices, and a couple of grapefruit slices, and I'm going to use these for decorating in between my cones. So come back to me. So these are the dehydrated orange slices that I have, and again you can pick them up in the likes of the walk-around shops and again some of the departmental stores. So you need a couple of them florist wires again. Now you can choose to wire them individually or in doubles. If you're wiring them in doubles, it's just a matter of slightly overlapping them, placing one on top of the other. Again, using the florist wire, you're going to pierce the wire, it's really easy, it's real soft, pierce the wire right through the opposite side, and bend it over, so like the pine cone, you have the long piece of wire and the short piece of wire. Squeezing them together, and then the long piece of wire gets wrapped around the short one 2 or 3 times, and that's them wired up. It's dead simple. Now if you find that you've only got a few of them, to get better mileage out of them, you're probably as well to do them individually. So again, to do it individually, just stick the wire through the other side, long wire, short wire, bend it over, pinch it together nice and tight, wrap the long wire around the other one, and that's your single slice wired up. Now the thing is, like when you go into the shops, they have them in lemons and limes and grapefruits and orange slices, and sometimes you can even buy a bag that has a mixture, you know, that way, and a couple of different slices. The scent of this is just amazing. Now naturally when they get damp or they get wet, they are going to hydrate again, so that's typically normal, but they still will last about 4 weeks on the door. So if you were to do this end of November, you'll well get to the new year out of them, so it'll be absolutely fine. The other thing that you can use, I just have a little half slice here and it looks like the end of the orange, okay? So I'm just going to place one on top of the other, waste not, want not, and we'll wire them up. But another thing that you can add onto your door wreath, just again to add a little bit more scent, this one is a little bit stiffer to stick through, probably because it's the end of the orange, there we go, we're through to the other side, is what about some cinnamon sticks? And again, the cinnamon sticks are absolutely gorgeous. Now you can buy these in some of the Oriental shops, you know, that way you can actually buy the cinnamon sticks, and they can often be cheaper. But again, the supermarkets, they do sell, obviously for cooking, but they work out quite expensive, or again, go into your local flower shop. The scent off these is amazing. Now the handiest way to do these is, do you remember the reel wire that we used earlier on for attaching on the greenery? So if you get your reel wire, and again you get 2 or 3 of the cinnamon sticks, now to spread them out or to spare them, I'm just going to do them in 2s, and then just wrap the reel wire around it like a piece of twine or a piece of string, okay? I'm going to cut it, and I didn't mention, but at the beginning I left one little piece of wire sticking out, so I'm now just going to twist these 2 pieces of wire together. I'll do another one, okay? So you get your 2 cinnamon sticks, you get your reel wire, you leave a small section of the reel wire sticking out, okay, so you don't start right at the beginning. You then wind you then wind the reel wire around as if it was a piece of twine, and by the way, you could do this with twine as well. Wrap it around a couple of times until you feel it's nice and secure. Cut it, leave a small little piece sticking out, and then just wrap these 2 pieces of wire together. Some people would go back over the wire to camouflage it with a little piece of skinny ribbon. And again, if you got that organza, and you cut skinny strips off it, it would be beautiful to wrap a little bit of organza around your little bunch of cinnamon sticks. To secure these into the frame, again, we're back to the florist wire. Hook the florist wire in through where you wrapped the reel wire around, bend it over, long wire, short wire, that's the trick. Squeeze together, wrap one around the other, and there is your little bunches of cinnamon sticks wired up. So I can add in some of them as well if we want to. So we'll start with the orange slices first, okay? So I have a couple of them. I've 1, 2, that one's not wired yet, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 or 9 bunches. Some of them are in doubles and some of them are in singles. Now again, like with the pine cones, you could go along now and rest the orange slices or lemon slices randomly through your door wreath and see where is the best place to, you know, to place them. Or you can be a bit like me, let's just go for it and see what happens. So what I like to do is I like to work in spaces where there isn't already a pine cone. So down here I'm kind of finding there's a fairly decent space here. So I'm sticking the wire through the spruce, through the frame at the opposite side, okay? One hand secures the orange slice into place and the other hand secures the wire, making that horseshoe bend, sticking it up into the frame, and there's our orange slice secure. So now I'm going to bring an orange slice maybe towards the outside. So again, I like to do that same kind of trick, the zigzag, because a mistake people make, if that happens by the way and the wire bends, just straighten it back out again. The mistake people make is to keep all the decorations in a line in the centre, and it can look a little bit skimpy looking. And seeing we're after going to the hassle of making the frame look bigger, you know, by placing all the foliage on a slant, you might as well take full advantage of it and make your wreath look a little bit bigger. Now back to the courses here at the school. If you're unemployed, you know that you're entitled to a grant. So even people that are on carers allowance, disability allowance, lone parents, job seekers and so on, you're entitled to a grant. It can vary from region to region. It could be 500 to 1,000 euros. The best thing to do is drop us an email and we can give you information on it. info@flowerschoolireland.com. And again, that will probably pay for definitely 1 or 2 of your modules, okay? And another thing is if you're actually working, you're employed, you're self-employed, or even if you're just working part-time, there's a skill nets grant out there. Now there's lots of different skill nets around the country, so the best thing to do is contact us and we can tell you which one is offering funding. And they can offer anything from 10 to 25% like as a grant towards the cost of your course. So for people that are either unemployed or employed, there more than likely is something out there for you. So if again you go to our website, which is flowerschoolireland.com, we do have a button on the website called funding. And if you click there, you'll get a lot of information. But as I said, if you want to drop me an email, we will be able to tell you exactly what sort of grants are available and what sort of money they're offering at the time. Now I'm just working around there. Now I've 1 more slice of orange left, and I actually just see a spot up over there, and that's where I'm possibly going to use that last orange slice, just to let you see what it looks like at the moment. So up here, this is where I think I'll see there was another one hiding underneath it. I thought it was the last piece. Now you can use a lot less or a lot more, but at this stage it's starting to look that little bit more luxurious, isn't it? Now I know when I possibly put on the bow at the beginning, you said, God, that's absolutely gorgeous. And then when you see the rest of the decoration, I think it doesn't need the other one. That's what it looks like so far. Now the scent of that is amazing. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to wire up a couple more bunches of them little cinnamon sticks. So hang on there, and then I'm going to show you how we can attach the cinnamon sticks. Now I've made up 7 little bunches of these cinnamon sticks just to take a little bit of time. It's completely up to you. You can put less on, you can put more on, but again the scent is going to be amazing. So you're looking for what I call cop-on spots. A cop-on spot is an area where there isn't any decoration there or there isn't any decoration there. Not saying every little section has to have a decoration on it, but it just means we're not wasting a decoration. So when I place, say, the cinnamon sticks into this area, at least then they're being shown off, you know, that way, and people can actually see them. Now often with this style wreath, people would call it like cinnamon and spices, you know, that way, or lemons and spices, or fruits and spices, or cinnamons and fruits, and they give it a name. And again, if you're giving this as a present to somebody, especially if they have a porch on their home, when you go out into the porch, the scent will always be amazing. Now, as I said, make your customer aware, or make the person who you give it to as a present, make them aware that the fruit will hydrate again, you know, that sort of way, because it is dehydrated fruit. Just actually hitting the organza ribbon in just that spot. It's just where the organza ribbon, do you remember I made the little hook? And just where it's hidden in underneath the greenery, and what's happening, there you go, I'm through now. I keep hitting it, I do. So I have 3 bunches in so far, and already it's looking gorgeous. And as I said, I had 7 bunches, and it's up to you, like there's no particular aim. And you can see, each time I go to place something in, I just really go for it. I don't overthink it too much. Sometimes I think when you're doing this at home yourself, you're inclined to overthink it too much, you know, that way, and be thinking about the same distance and the same amount of space. Sometimes allow your eye to guide you. Like, just look at it, and if your eye is kind of drawn down to this area, well, that's the right answer. So sometimes, like, depend on your own eye to guide you, where the cop-on spots, or where the spaces are, or where you need to actually place the decorations. I've 1 more left, so I'm putting it over here. And you'll notice each time I turn the frame on the table. So when I stick the wires through, this hand is always underneath to meet the wire that comes through the opposite side. I often call that my gynecology hand. You know the way, it's in underneath there, it's working in the dark. It's like the postman putting his hand through the letterbox and he's hoping for the best. He's fishing around there, finding the wire and sticking it back up into the frame. So I would be happy enough with the amount of decoration that's on that. Do you know what? You could never stop. You could keep going. But some people like them to be that little bit simpler, and some people like them to be that little bit more luxurious. The choice is yours. It's completely up to yourself which way you decorate them. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you do have any questions, you can always put a comment below. And if you are interested in maybe any of the courses that we have here at Case Flower School, go to our website, flowerschoolisland.com. If you need more information, drop us an email, info@flowerschoolisland.com. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you happen to be watching it on Instagram or Facebook, we'd absolutely love if you click share. Thanks for joining me. My name is Janette and I'm from Case Flower School.